Hello everyone and welcome back to the TVM crew. I've missed you. It's been a couple of weeks since we made an interview and I'm so excited because today I have with me Davide Tarsitano, horror author. How are you, Davide?
Hello, Mar. I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here. You have one novel, Tooth Fairy, right?
Yes, the Tooth Fairy.
I love that title. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so the Tooth Fairy idea was pretty much born when I was sitting on a dental chair one day at the
Yeah.
dentist, and
Which
yeah,
is
this is actually
terrifying enough.
yeah, exactly. And while I was sitting on that dental chair, I just had this idea that clicked with other let's say previous idea that I had in the back of my mind. And I just thought that, we're all very vulnerable when we're sitting on a dental chair. And I
Yes.
just thought, like, what if like my dentist is like a psycho or
Yes.
something like that. That's how basically it was born.
Yes, I think that we all had that thought cross our minds at
Yeah.
some point because you say you're completely exposed and
Yeah.
right. And how when you write, because I always like to ask this, when you start a book or writing any other work, do you already have in mind where the book is going to go, the structure, or do you just go with the flow and
That, yeah, that's an excellent question. So normally I don't like to plot. So I don't know
okay.
how my story is gonna start. I don't know where my story is gonna end. But
Mm-hmm.
I have, let's say, some pillars, concepts
Okay.
that I have for the
Mm-hmm.
story, and sometimes a couple of them just click together, and
Yes.
the general idea is formed. Um, and then I think the most challenging part is to get to know your characters. So your characters start as basically just shadows, or
Hmm.
people that have no face, no personality,
Yeah.
nothing or
Yeah.
whatsoever. And then you just it's almost like you start to get to know them a little bit better, and
Mm-hmm.
by some choices that they make, you start understanding what kind of people they are, and that's the process. So to
Yes.
me, I go with the flow, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
No, of course, absolutely. Because maybe sometimes you change your mind about a character that maybe you had an idea of that character in the beginning and then it turns into another kind of personality. Has that happened to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of times I thought one of my character, was going to make a certain choice. I mean, it's
Mhm.
kind of hard to explain because people think, oh, you are the writer, so
Yeah.
you decide what they do, but that's not entirely true.
Mhm.
Sometimes I just let them guide the story rather than, me superimposing my narrative.
Hmm. I think that's very interesting because even if for you it's not a close thread or the tone or the environment you create, it's also more organic for the reader. I mean, if you don't force it, the reader won't feel it forced.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yes, I think it's a great way of building your stories. Are you like attached to any of your characters? Like, do you have a favorite one?
Yes, so in the Tooth Fairy,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm actually very attached with the antagonist. Her name is Wendy Jug.
Ah, okay.
The readers will get to know her very early, in the first chapters of the book already. And I, I kind of like learned how to, let's say, know her and sympathize with her because
Yes.
she's gone through a very, very, very rough patch, in her early days of her
Mm.
life, in her childhood.
Yes.
She suffered a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma, and to me, yeah, I just got really connected with her.
Hmm. That's that's interesting because that's something that happens often when there's a character that maybe it's not the good guy, so to speak.
Yeah,
But when they tell you the background, you feel so bad, you're on their side.
I agree. I mean, the villain of the story has always been the character that has drawn my attention the most. I
Yes.
normally always sympathize with villains rather than
Yes, me
with
too.
the good guys. It's just the way it is.
Yes, because sometimes it seems that the villain characters are more profound, are more complex
More
because they
human. Yeah.
exactly because they have this like this inner world, this controversy with themselves, this confrontation with their feelings, what they want, what they not, because not I think that no one is completely bad and no one is completely good. So I think that villains are just so much fun and much more deep characters,
Yes,
right?
that's what I think too. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. And do you plan to make like any spin-off with a character, like with her, for example?
Not with her specifically,
Hmm.
but there is in my mind an idea of one of the characters of the Tooth Fairy, to be, let's say, in a standalone spin-off story for sure.
Yes. That would be great. Um, what what kind of horror do you think your book is? Like if you had to choose a perfect audience for you, which kind
Yeah.
of reader is the perfect?
Um, I would classify the Tooth Fairy as a psychological horror. So,
Mhm.
it's not supernatural. There are not, let's say, paranormal
Okay.
elements into it. It's real life horror. So anyone that wants to, let's say, get away from, their routine,
Yes.
in a story that is still based in, in our world,
Mm-hmm.
in real life. I always thought there's plenty of horror in normal people in ordinary life, and it's a kind of a horror that it's probably the scariest one
Yes.
for me.
Yes.
Um, yeah, because people are capable of really bad things. So, The Tooth Fairy is a book about trauma. It's a book about
Mhm.
abuse. It's a book about loss, and it's a book about mental health
Okay.
because really, I would recommend it to everyone that wants to take like a look into the world of, for example, multiple personality disorder,
Okay.
or dissociative identity disorder,
Mm-hmm.
um, because that's ultimately the result of all that trauma and abuse that Wendy has,
Yes.
suffered in her childhood. That's
Mm.
what, let's say, human monsters can create.
Yes. Well, I guess that those kind of disorders have to be very interesting for an author because it's like you're treating more characters than only one.
Yes, and it leaves I mean, it allowed me to play a little bit more with the wit of Wendy's character.
Mm-hmm.
There was also quite a lot of research involved.
Exactly. Right.
Dissociative identity disorder is a
Mhm.
really serious, let's say,
Yeah.
mental illness. So I didn't want to, let's say, make it look, let's say, superficial for the people that actually suffer from it.
Yes, I understand. Yes, this is something important because I've heard sometimes um, readers complaining about that to authors that don't make enough research and well, I guess that it's a very complicated subject. So
Yeah,
I understand that you might have to invest a lot of time in researching. And
yeah,
one thing that I wanted to ask you is because you are from Italy, right?
I am.
Um, how is the horror landscape in Italy?
Um, so it's not nearly as, let's say, wide and
Yeah, I know.
prosperous as it is in the United States.
Yeah, here in Spain
Um,
is the same.
yeah,
Yes.
unfortunately, yeah, the Italian market is more focused around romance. It's more focused around
Ah, yeah.
uh, y- young adult
Yes.
fiction, which I think it's great, but
Yeah.
very little horror, to be honest, or very little psychological thrillers, and very little, yeah, of that kind.
Yes.
One of my favorite novels is still
Hmm.
a novel called Io Uccido from Giorgio Faletti.
Okay.
I think Giorgio Faletti was, one of the greatest, let's say, Italian thriller writers.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a rare exception to find some good horror in Italy.
Yeah. It's it's something strange because here in Spain is more or less the same. Here there's a lot of fantasy. Fantasy is just engulfing any kind of reading community, but horror is exactly the same. And I think that I don't know why that is because in our countries, like we have a lot of ancient
Yes,
legends, buildings, all
history.
right,
Yeah,
all the dark era of the Inquisition, religion, all the blood, all the witches hunt. I
yeah.
mean, we had terrible, real horror in here, and instead, it seems like we just don't care about it.
Yeah, there is so much material. I completely agree with you. And, I have a lot of ideas about, future works that,
Mhm.
might be based in Europe, in Italy, in Spain, in Greece,
Yes,
in France. Yeah. But yeah, it's undeniable that the market in the US is a lot better for horror writers.
yes, absolutely. It's difficult to bring it to Europe, but we will. We
We
will.
will.
We will. We're
Let's work on it.
yes, even more because now with internet and social media, I think that that's also like a quantic jump in for the horror community.
Absolutely. I think, especially with for self-publishing authors like
Mhm.
myself.
Exactly.
This first debut novel was self-published. I
Mm.
think Amazon offers you a great way for wide distribution
Mm-hmm.
in, let's say, a lot of countries. My website, my on my website there are links
Yes.
that allow readers to purchase my book in different countries. So even in Spain, even in France, even in, all around Europe. So I think
Yes.
that is definitely something that helps. But
Mm-hmm.
then it's also, thanks to people like you, Mar, and, people that really love horror and they try to build a horror community that, this thing happen and can happen in Europe as well.
Hmm. Yes, I think that it's all a matter of people realizing there's not like I think that will because obviously there must be people that they like horror because that's something you have inside. You just like it once you see it. Like when you are a kid and you fall in love with that book. It's
Yes.
you just like that. I think that the problem is that we don't have a sense of community. Like in the US, they have a lot this feeling of getting together to do something they enjoy, to find people with the same kind of hobbies or taste in things. But here we don't do that. We're just like independent, like lone wolves. You
Yeah.
like something, but you don't think of looking for more people that like that. And I think that if we extrapolate that to the population, I think that's what happens. We don't have this community sense. I don't know if you see it like that in
Yeah,
Italy.
I mean that could definitely be an element. It's a complicated,
Hmm.
let's say, it's a complicated, I would say, topic for sure. But I
Yes.
also think, like you said before, with social media taking over, and especially like book talk,
Yes.
and TikTok,
Yes.
for reading is becoming
Yes.
huge, and I think that's kind of like, migrating all over Europe again, as well. So
Yes.
I'm positively confident that, like you said, we'll be able to bring horror, let's say, back in origin Europe.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. We will do it. Do you have a scene in your book that it's been especially challenging to write?
Um, for the Tooth Fairy, you mean?
Yes, yes, sorry, yes.
So, I mean, of course, as an Italian, not being English my native language, of course there were challenges, but I feel like nothing that, multiple rounds of editing with professional cannot fix.
Yes.
So, I mean, I was lucky enough to read a lot of books in English throughout my life, so it wasn't really like a shock for me.
Mm-hmm.
In the Tooth Fairy, I guess there were a couple of parts where I struggled a little bit during the
Yes.
story. Every now and then, everyone gets to a point where there is a really big decision that needs to
Yes.
be made about the story,
Mm-hmm.
and depending on that decision, you can end up in two completely different spots. So I guess I struggled in some,
Yeah.
during the evolution of the story, because I was really just, I couldn't decide which way to go. So I took my time, I let it sink inside my
Mm-hmm.
mind, and ultimately the answer just arrived by itself. So yeah, that's where I struggled a little bit in writing, but not specific part of the story, just a
Yeah.
couple of, let's say, forks, right, where
Mm-hmm.
you need to choose if to go left or if to go right.
Yes, I understand. Have you ever found yourself like writing a part of the story that was a dead end? You have to rewrite a part of it?
So normally I try to be quite linear
Yeah.
with my workflow, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it happened for sure. For example, it happened that I moved one of the chapters that were in the middle of the story at the very beginning of the story.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, it happens that you either write something that it's not yet connected to your storyline, but you
Mm-hmm.
just know that you have it there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just particularly inspired to write one specific, let's say, chapter, which doesn't necessarily have to be connected with what you have written so far.
Yes.
And some other times you just realize, oh, you know what, like this piece of book just is gonna be so much better, like at the beginning of the story, for example.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so yeah, I mean, I guess I write sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it happens that I write disconnected pieces.
Hmm. Yes, I understand. Um, what and as an author, like in all the process of writing the book and then publishing it, even I don't know, getting it out there, what's the most difficult part of the process for you?
For me, definitely, let's say, letting readers know that my
Yeah.
book is out there. The marketing, it's just so challenging. It's not my thing. It's not my job, right? So
Yes.
I honestly enjoyed a lot the process of editing my book with
Okay.
professionals, and the process of having, let's say, that creative control over my book cover, for example. I
Yes.
think those are all advantages of self-publishing, right?
Yes.
You are not subjected to, let's say, you're not restrained in your creative control.
Mm-hmm.
The final output, it's still what you want.
Yes.
Um, and I like that a lot. But then, of course, when you're self-published, you have to take care of all the marketing by yourself,
Yeah.
or at least, that was really challenging for me. I feel
Yes.
like I did not do a great job with the Tooth Fairy, even though, I mean, the results so far have been encouraging. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like with a better targeted marketing, I could have done a lot better than what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that is
Yeah.
the most the most difficult part. That's why
It's a
there
common.
are yeah, that's why there are also awesome, companies and marketing companies like yours, helping
Thank you.
authors out. So yeah, thank you very much for your help.
No, it's I mean, it's normal. You are a writer, you're an artist. You don't I mean, you can don't have to be good at both things. It's like me, I can't write. I write a paragraph and I'm already bored of myself. You know? So it's impossible to be good at everything. And also, that's an interesting thing that you said about all the advantages of being a self-published author. I usually have this conversation with authors, and because the thing is that maybe years ago, let's say 20 years ago, it was like such an honor to be published by a traditional press and all of that. But now there's so many people out there publishing books by themselves that, in my opinion, I think that presses are kind of caged because unless they are a really big one, like they are completely established and no one is going to steal their throne, I think that little presses struggle because of that. because there are a lot of amazing authors that are just self-publishing because, as you say, they want to choose their cover, they want to choose, even if they make some kind of promotion, just say like something as simple as that you want to make a sale, and just for
Yep.
a week it will be 90 cents. And chances are you won't be able to do that with the press because they are going to decide that. So, or like sometimes I find with some of my clients, the problem that they have is that for I need review copies of the book to look for reviewers, and they cannot get them because the press or just plain don't doesn't answer them, or they don't want to give them.
Yep.
Like, no, 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 I don't want this file around. So they are caged like that, and sometimes presses neglect a bit the marketing of the books too. So the authors find themselves in a situation where they don't have the proper tools or freedom to promote by themselves because they get no ads, because they get no review copies, but at the same time, they are not being represented by the press either.
Yep.
So it it's very interesting what you say, because maybe some years ago it was different, that it was not very well seen to publish by yourself compared to a press, but now I think that the tides are turned right now.
I totally agree. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not by any means an expert in, let's say, publishing
Mhm.
strategies, but the way I see it as as a new author in the scene, um, to me, like you said, that probably the small press, hybrid press have been probably the most impacted by all this
Yes.
self-publishing wave.
Mm-hmm.
So, take for example like an author like Colleen Hoover, right?
Yes.
A completely different genre than what I enjoy to read and write. But she started her career as an independent author, so she self-published a few of her novels, and now I mean she is locked up by one of the big five top publishing companies,
Yes.
just because everything that she produces, she sells millions of copy of it. So it's either like a big publishing company behind you, or
Yes.
it's a really good let's say self-publishing service that that you do to yourself with
Yes.
other professionals.
Hmm. Yes, even more because I think that it's all about the demand of something when it comes to services and tools and resources to appear. Because maybe some time ago it was more difficult to find a good cover artist or a good editor or whatever, a good formatter, but or they were very expensive, maybe. But now there's a lot of authors self-publishing. So what happened? That the services that they would need, they just pop up like mushrooms. Because there's a
Yes.
lot of editors, a lot of formatters, a lot of cover artists. And what that means is that the fee goes down. Because if there's a lot, you need to be competitive.
Yep.
So I think that now authors have can afford much more a good editor, a good cover artist. So I think that that's something that has empowered a lot independent authors, and I'm so happy because there are some amazing, amazing authors out there that with terrific books, as you say, that then some press catches it and they just want that author with them because they know they're going to sell millions of books.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yes. So, well, I think that this evolution is very positive. And I need to ask you, what kind of horror films, movies do you like?
Any kind.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I've been feeding on, horror, my whole life. I'm actually have a taste for both horror and dystopian.
Okay.
Um, yeah, those are my two, let's say, go-to kind of movies.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, there are so many. For example, one horror movie that really scared the hell out of me,
Okay.
was, for example, The Strangers. I
Mm.
don't know if you watch The Strangers.
Yes. Yes.
It's that kind of like real world horror again. It's super terrifying to me. Of
Yes.
course, there are a lot of other titles. recent horror movies that I really enjoyed. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I watched Smile.
Ah,
I
yeah.
I thought I
Okay.
thought Smile was a really good horror movie for
Yes.
sure.
Yes, it was.
I enjoyed the Barbarian, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Let me think. I mean, of course, I enjoy Jordan Peele
Yes.
style of horror, like Us, Get Out. I thought Nope took a very different turn,
Mm-hmm.
compared to,
Yes.
classic Jordan Peele. I
Yes.
love, I absolutely love anything that it's Stephen King related.
Yeah.
His last, let's say, productions of it. Um, yeah, I mean, absolutely incredible.
Yes.
I mean, you just give me horror and I'll just watch it or I'll read it. It's
Yes.
just
And
the way I am.
isn't there any movie or any film that has disappointed you? That you expected a lot and it was such a frustrating disappointment?
Oh yes.
Yes.
I am a really, really big fan of the 1973 John Carpenter Halloween
Okay.
franchise.
Yes.
Uh, I mean, when I watched Halloween Hands, it was so bad to me, so disappointing.
Yes.
I actually had another podcast, let's say, interview where I spoke only about that,
Oh,
about, let's
really?
say, yeah, a horror movie that really disappointed you, and I picked Halloween Hands.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I normally don't enjoy these franchise that have been, let's say, procrastinated for so long.
Yeah.
Made trilogies out of new trilogies. I feel like they just lose the original sense, the original message
Yes,
of.
I agree. 100%. Because I think that just as they say, for example, with bands, with music bands, there's this saying that I don't know how it translates into English, but that they have to give up or to stop the career once they are on the top. So people remembers them up there and being amazing. I think that
Yeah.
with these movies they should make the same. Just leave the legend as it is
Yes.
because it's great. We all love it. It's just an epic legend of horror. Why do you have to take the risk of ruining it? Because maybe you're going to ruin the feeling that some people have for that
Yes.
character.
Yes. Yeah. It was. Yeah. Like I said, it was really sad to see.
Hmm.
You have this picture of Michael Meyer,
Yeah.
right? Like being this, let's say, incredibly dark monster. And then you see him like being beaten up, hold, and in Halloween Hands, it's just like, I don't know, it's just like a
Yeah.
myth that people have created,
Yeah.
just being ridiculized,
Yeah.
or just being, let's say, um, overly cited and overly used, to the
Hmm.
point where people don't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah. Yes, it's so sad. It's so sad. Now I had a friend telling me that he thinks that they do this because it's a comfort zone for horror fans. But I think that I'm not sure the horror community has that. Like comfort zone in horror? What's that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess there are a lot of people that, are still, love Halloween so much that they're still, if for them maybe it's better to watch a bad Halloween than no watch Halloween at all. But
Yeah, maybe yes.
maybe you're right. But
I don't know.
yeah, I'm, with the old trilogy of Halloween. That was incredible. I thought they should have stopped there.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, but or even more the commercial kind of filming industry. It's difficult. Like I was so excited to watch a Smile and I loved it, but I also was scared of not liking it because it's not common that I watch a trailer because I watch lots of horror and play lots of horror games and it's difficult to see something that I say, "Wow, this is brutal. I want to see." Yeah, that
Yeah.
no, it's not common. So I watched the trailer and I thought, "Wow, I want to watch this because if it's not the case that they have taken all the best in the movie and have made a short trailer, if all the movie is like that, it needs to be good. And it
Yeah,
was, but it normally doesn't happen. That
yeah, it was a rare exception, let's say.
right.
It
Yes.
was really refreshing. I thought that that was, let's say, a real, let's say, classic style horror movie.
Yes.
Just like, in our modern times now. I loved it.
Yes, me
One
too.
one one other one that I actually started yesterday. It's not, let's say, exactly horror
Mm-hmm.
100%, but it has some horror elements. Is The Last of Us.
Okay.
It started on HBO Max, and it's like I guess the movie or TV show adaptation of the Rockstar game.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not Rockstar. I think it's like Bulldog game, The
Yes.
Last of Us.
Yes.
It To me, I mean, that was one of the greatest games of
Mm-hmm.
all time. And the show
Yes.
so far in the first episode is really, really promising. So
Awesome.
yeah,
It's
I'm
great
really
when you
excited.
find something you like.
Yeah,
It's so great because it's not easy sometimes. And it's so lovely to be with you, but we need to wrap up. Do you have
yeah.
a final message for our audience? Some wisdom?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much to you. Um, and yeah, it was a pleasure to be on your show. And for all the readers, I mean, thank you very much to all the readers that have already read or purchased the Tooth Fairy. To the new readers, I just want to say, if you like what you heard in this interview, you can find my book on my website, which is dtarsitano.com.
Mm-hmm.
I also have social media profiles on Instagram at dtarsitano official,
Okay.
on Facebook, Davide Tarsitano dash
Mm-hmm.
author, and on Twitter, which is dtarsitano01.
Okay.
Um, yeah, just feel free to visit my website, and I hope you enjoy my book as much as I enjoyed writing it.
We will. I will link everything below, so it's very easy for everyone to find you.
Thank you so much.
Mm.
This went really, really fast. So yeah, let's do that
Yes, I
again
know.
sometime.
We can make another one any day.
Yeah, looking
Yes.
forward to it.
Thank you so much for your time, for being here. It's been so lovely to be with you.
Thank you, Mar. Much appreciated.
Okay, then, so a lot of luck with your project and keep me updated, okay, on
Yeah,
everything.
I will.
Okay,
Thank you.
then have a lovely night and take care.
You too. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.